Welcome back. Andrew Rosindell is in the studio, the Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister and the Tory MP for Romford. Good old Romford, hopefully basking in sunshine this sunny Sunday morning. What do you make, Andrew, thanks for joining me in the studio, fresh from your holidays. What do you make of the summit then? Because Ben Wallace, your former colleague, the Defence Secretary, said Putin was probably laughing all the way home. And then Boris Johnson, we've discussed on the show already, has written this piece for the Mail on Sunday, basically saying he thought it was the most vomit-inducing summit in diplomatic history.
This war has been horrific, and my heart goes out to the people of Ukraine. I want it to end. Now, President Trump, I'm not there. I can't see what the discussions are about. And who knows what's going on behind the scenes. But this war has to end. And I think only President Trump could have actually achieved getting Putin to the negotiating table. The key thing is that aggression is not rewarded. Having said that, we also have to find a solution.
Yeah.
And it's been clear for a long time that only some kind of negotiated solution is going to work. We're not going to go to war with Russia over this. We're not going to send British troops to fight on the front line with Ukraine. We could have done a lot more for Ukraine many years ago when, of course, Russia started to invade Ukraine. But we haven't done as much as we should have done. The reality is we've got to deal with things as they are today, and it will need some kind of negotiated settlement. And it seems like this is what President Trump is trying to achieve.
Is he, though? I mean, this is tricky, isn't it? You're a Trump fan, right?
I think he's head and shoulders above the previous administration.
OK, fair enough.
And I think we should work with him to solve some of these issues.
You're a Tory. You're on that kind of side of the argument. You'll be pro-Republican, not pro-Democrat in the US. And yet Wallace has said Putin played Trump like an agent handler plays an asset. I mean, we get this strange press conference. Trump's referring to Putin. He's a war criminal, for goodness sake, as the boss. You then get Putin starting a press conference, even though it's being hosted on US soil in Alaska. Somebody made a reference that it was like an empty burger with nothing in it. You know, Ukraine has got absolutely nothing out of this. And now Zelensky, bless his heart, faces the prospect of a return to the White House where he's probably going to have his head in a vice. On one hand, accept terms like giving up the Donbass. On the other, if you resist, look like a warmongerer. It's an impossible situation.
Well, it is an impossible
for the goodies
situation
against the baddies,
but
isn't it?
The reality is it doesn't help to start attacking President Trump. He's trying to find a solution. He's looking at ways through this. And as I say, we can't appease aggression, which is what we mustn't do with President Putin.
But isn't that what's happening? They're rolling out the red carpet to a war criminal.
But how else do
calling him the boss? How
else do you negotiate? How else do you find a solution? Unless we are prepared to let this war go on and on and on. About 1 million young people have been killed, troops on both Ukrainian and the Russian side. I want this war to end.
Sure.
I'm hoping that what President Trump is trying to do will actually bring that about. But look, none of us are there seeing what's really going on. We don't know the details of what's being discussed. What I do know is that most people I speak to in my constituency want this war to end. Yeah.
Starmer and the coalition of the willing?
Well, I think it's pathetic, frankly.
Well,
I think,
hang on. How does Trump get a say in all this? And we need to give Trump the benefit of the doubt. There need to be talks and negotiations. And then, Starmer's coalition of the willing is pathetic.
Well, it is, because the fact is most European countries have failed to actually play their part for many years in the defence of Europe. Germany is only just starting to pay its way.
Yeah.
They are trading with Europe.
The Tories for the last 14 years didn't get defence spending up enough?
Oh, absolutely not. And
OK, so the Tories failed Ukraine.
But Britain has historically paid its way when it comes to defence and has played a key part in NATO.
But
other countries have not done so.
Under Labour is going to be more at the end of this Parliament than it was under the Conservatives. Well, imagine.
Equally so.
This is a Prime Minister that propped up Jeremy Corbyn.
Yes, equally so, the effects of President Trump coming in, saying to Europe, start paying your way, that is a good thing.
And but the Tories shouldn't have needed to be nudged by Trump.
I disagree with defence cuts. All these years, I've disagreed with it all. I think it's been a big mistake. I think the so-called peace dividend was never realistic, and we should have continued to fund our defences. But the reality is Europe has never played its part. Europe's always shielded under the American umbrella. We've played our part around the world in various conflicts. Countries like Germany, hiding behind historical reasons, have not done so. What President Trump has achieved, He's forcing Europe to pay its way and play their part. Now, do I think that this coalition of the so-called willing, Keir Starmer, President Macron, do I really think that they're going to have any real impact on this? Not particularly, no. I think that Donald Trump is the person who's making things happen. I just hope he succeeds.
Maybe the lack of impact of the coalition of the willing is a little bit like the lack of impact of Robert Jenrick and Chris Philp and others going across the channel and filming videos, but having absolutely no real impact in opposition on smashing the gangs.
Well, of course, when you're in opposition, you don't have any power. When you're in government, you do have power.
What are they doing?
Well, they're highlighting how this entire system has gone so badly wrong under both governments.
Or chasing followers on social media?
Under both governments, mistakes have been made. We're out of power now because we failed to deal with it. Labour is making things worse, and they're coming up with gimmicks which are not going to succeed. What we need is a new...
Isn't Robert Jenrick turning up at the channel and making live phone calls on social media to the French police to arrest smugglers and people trying to get into a dinghy? A little bit of...
Camilla, at least Robert is speaking up for what most British people are thinking. At least he's saying what people are concerned about.
Who you supported as the future leader of the party, but unfortunately that quest was thwarted by Kemi Badenoch. Would Mr Jenrick actually be doing a better job than the Tory leader, who's been a bit invisible this summer? I
think that Kemi's actually not been invisible. She's been out and about. She's been speaking out at different events and visits around the country. Robert Jenrick does it round the clock. Chris Philp has been incredible what he's been saying.
Hang on, are you saying Jenrick is more round the clock than Badenoch?
Robert's got incredible energy. I mean, of course he has. And it's amazing what he's doing. He's raising so many topics which most people are concerned about, and he's actually saying it as it is. So,
Would he be doing
all credit to him.
Would he be doing a better job?
I think that the Conservative Party overall needs to do a much better job. And I'm a Conservative MP. I want the Conservative Party to play an important role in the future of this country. But we have to be honest with the British people. We had 14 years in power and we didn't succeed in a whole range of areas, which immigration, without doubt, was the biggest failure.
How could you be doing a better job then? Badenoch reshuffled before the summer break. Did you rate the reshuffle? James Cleverly's back. That's going to help.
What I think is important is the Conservative Party stands for something clear. You can shuffle the deck as much as you like, and it's the leader's prerogative to choose what ministers, shadow ministers she appoints and who's in what positions. What the British people want to know is, what do we as a party stand for? What would we do in government? What are we going to do to change and make our country better? Because people are angry. They don't like what's happening to our country. In fact, I think this country is on a precipice. I think unless the Conservative Party really get to grips with what the average person in the street is thinking, and they're very, very depressed at the moment about how this country's going, we have to be part of that change that the country so desperately needs. So let's put personalities aside for a moment. Let's think of the interests of our country. That's what I'm doing, and that's what the Conservative Party must do in future.
Final question. Is it a problem that clarity seems to be voiced by Nigel Farage at the moment? Clarity on the right of what he stands for and what Reform wants to do. And by comparison, the Conservatives just seem a bit wishy-washy.
So I'm not wishy-washy, and I'm telling you now, I agree with a lot of what Nigel says. I always have done. I supported Nigel during the referendum. But Kem is also trying to bring things together for the Conservative Party. The fact is, Labour is a calamity. They have to be got rid of at the next election, and the sooner that comes, the better. My question is this. As a divided right of centre, if you have Reform and Conservative fighting each other, then surely the only winners are going to be the Labour Party.
So a deal needs to be done.
Well, I don't know yet, but what I do think is that there should be discussions, because our country is more important than any political party.
Andrew Rosindell, thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning.